I want to speak to that part of you that is tired of wondering whether you are attractive enough, young enough, interesting enough, or easy enough to love. I want to speak to the part that has studied every silence, replayed every conversation, and tried to discover what must be changed before someone will finally stay. Let that part rest for a moment. Love was never meant to be an examination you must pass. You do not have to become less yourself in order to become more lovable. Your lovability is not determined by your age, weight, shape, skin, relationship history, or the number of people who have chosen you. These things may influence how you feel about yourself, especially in a culture that constantly evaluates appearance, but they do not manufacture your worth. Your value was present before anyone praised you, compared you, desired you, or failed to recognize you. The body will change throughout life. Appearance will have seasons, yet the qualities through which you create a loving relationship reach far beyond the surface. Your tenderness, humor, curiosity, honesty, resilience, experience, and ability to listen all become part of the love you bring. You are not arriving at a relationship as an empty person waiting to be given value. You arrive with a life, a perspective, and a heart capable of meaningful contribution. This is important because love is not one valuable person selecting someone who has proved worthy enough. A healthy relationship is created by two people who each bring value, needs, limitations, and a willingness to participate. You are not merely hoping to receive affection. You are also considering what you want to share. Encouragement, companionship, truth, warmth, play, commitment, and growth. Ask yourself, what becomes possible in another person's life because I am present? Perhaps you make people feel heard. Perhaps you bring steadiness during difficult moments. Perhaps you create laughter, beauty, order, or thoughtful conversation. Recognizing these qualities is not arrogance. It is an honest acknowledgement that you have something to offer. Your subconscious needs a new definition of love. If the old definition says love must be fought for, you may feel most attracted when affection is uncertain. If it says, I must change myself to be chosen, you may begin performing as soon as someone interests you. If it says, love always leaves, you may become suspicious when closeness grows. Offer your mind a gentler definition. Love does not require me to compete for basic care. I do not have to erase myself in order to belong. I can be loved through honesty, mutual respect, and peace. You do not have to believe every sentence completely today. Begin with willingness. I am willing to consider that love can feel safer than what I have known. A new pattern begins when possibility is allowed to enter. The subconscious often treats familiarity as a form of safety. It learns through repeated experiences and associations. The ways affection, conflict, attention, and withdrawal were expressed around you may have become your first model of relationship. You did not consciously design this model. You absorbed it while trying to understand how closeness worked. Perhaps love in your family was expressed through practical care, but rarely through words. Perhaps affection was available only when you behaved correctly. Perhaps one person pursued while another withdrew. Perhaps conflict was loud and unpredictable, or feelings were never discussed at all. These experiences can shape what your mind expects from connection. Later, you may feel drawn toward what resembles the old emotional atmosphere. Intensity can feel like chemistry because uncertainty is familiar. Waiting for a reply may create the same tension your system once associated with wanting care. A kind and consistent person may initially seem unexciting, not because healthy love lacks depth, but because calm has not yet become emotionally familiar. Do not blame yourself for this. You were not deliberately choosing pain. You may simply have been recognizing an old pattern and mistaking recognition for compatibility. Awareness allows you to separate the two. You can say, "This feeling is familiar," but familiarity alone does not make it right for me. Begin observing what happens within you when someone is inconsistent. Do you become more interested? Do you work harder to prove your value? Do you interpret uncertainty as a challenge you must win? Then notice what happens when someone is dependable. Do you relax, or do you search for a hidden problem? Do you receive their kindness, or does part of you distrust it? These observations are not diagnoses. They are clues. They help you understand what your inner system has practiced and what it now needs to learn. A new love template is built through repeated experiences of truth, respect, predictability, and appropriate boundaries. It may also be supported by trusted relationships, reflective work, or professional help when old wounds are difficult to navigate alone. Ask yourself, what did I once believe I had to do to receive love? Did you have to be useful, quiet, perfect, attractive, undemanding, or endlessly forgiving? Then ask, what would safe love look like for me now? Perhaps it includes consistent behavior, honest communication, room for disagreement, and the ability to express a need without fear of punishment. Finally ask, how do I want to feel within a relationship? Do you want to feel peaceful, respected, playful, desired, understood, and free to be genuine? Let these qualities guide your choices more than intensity alone. Say, I release the belief that love must repeat my past. I am learning to recognize affection that is steady, honest, and kind. Peace is becoming familiar to me. Becoming a magnet for love does not mean developing a perfect appearance or a personality designed to please everyone. It does not mean learning techniques to make a particular person pursue you. Genuine attraction grows when you are sufficiently secure to be authentic. You no longer hide every preference, agree with everything, or present an edited version of yourself in exchange for acceptance. Inner consistency creates a different kind of presence. You say that you deserve respect, and your choices begin reflecting it. You offer tenderness without tolerating repeated carelessness. You communicate interest without pretending to be indifferent, but you also observe whether interest is returned. Your warmth and your boundaries begin serving the same purpose, protecting the possibility of honest connection. A sense of inner sufficiency changes the pace at which you connect. You do not have to turn one promising interaction into the answer to your whole future. You allow time to reveal character. You ask questions, notice behavior, and remain connected to the rest of your life. You are interested, but you are not abandoning your center. This does not mean you will never feel uncertain or desire reassurance. It means you can express a need without begging someone to define your value. You can tolerate the fact that not every connection will develop. Another person's lack of compatibility may disappoint you, but it no longer becomes evidence that you are unlovable. Healthy love carries an energy of openness with discernment. You are willing to meet people, but you do not give immediate access to every private part of your life. You are gentle, but you do not disappear into another person's needs. You know how to give, and you are also learning to receive care without suspicion or guilt. Place a hand over your heart and say, I am lovable as I am, and I am growing in ways that support healthy love. I release the need to perform for affection. I welcome relationships in which honesty, consistency, tenderness, and mutual effort can live together. I am open to love, selective with my trust, and faithful to myself. That is the real magnetism of love. Not becoming irresistible to everyone, but becoming able to recognize, welcome, and sustain the love that allows both people to remain fully themselves. I want you to give yourself permission to approach love differently now. Not by forcing your heart to trust before it is ready, not by pretending that old disappointments never happened, and not by trying to visualize one particular person into choosing you. We are going to create an inner experience of love that feels calm, respectful, mutual, and real. Then we will allow that experience to influence what you recognize, receive, and choose in your relationships. Step 1 becomes still enough to meet yourself again. Choose a quiet place where you are unlikely to be interrupted for a few minutes. You may practice after waking, before sleeping, or at another time when the demands of the day have softened. These transitional moments can be useful because your attention is not yet fully occupied by messages, tasks, and other people's expectations. Yet there is no magical hour you must find. The best time is one in which you can be present without turning the practice into another duty. Sit or lie down in a position that feels supportive. You do not need to hold your body in a perfect meditation posture. Let the surface beneath you carry some of your weight. Soften the muscles around your eyes. Unclench the jaw. Allow the shoulders to move downward. Rest one hand over the heart if that feels comforting, and place the other somewhere relaxed. Breathe slowly and naturally. Do not try to pull in the largest possible breath. Notice the breath that is already happening. Feel the chest or abdomen move gently beneath your hand. On each exhale, allow one unnecessary effort to release. The effort to appear fine, the effort to predict the future, or the effort to solve love in this very moment. The mind may remain active. It may bring up a name, memory, fear, unfinished conversation, or question. You do not have to make the mind completely blank before the practice can begin. A quiet mind is not one that never produces thought. It is one that does not have to follow every thought immediately. When attention wanders, return to the physical experience of breathing. Feel the hand against your chest. Notice the support beneath your body. Listen to one sound in the room. These simple sensations remind you that you are here now, not inside the old relationship and not inside an imagined future. If discomfort appears, do not force yourself to continue with closed eyes or intense imagery. Open your eyes, look around the room, and name what you see. The practice is meant to create a sense of safety, not to overwhelm you. Healing is not measured by how much discomfort you can tolerate without stopping. Now say slowly, I am safe as I open my heart to the possibility of love. You are not promising that no one will ever disappoint you. You are reminding yourself that you now have more awareness, choice, and ability to respond than you once had. You can notice patterns, communicate needs, seek support, and leave situations that repeatedly harm you. Then say, I am willing to learn a new way of loving and being loved. Notice the word willing. You do not have to know how the whole transformation will happen. Willingness creates an opening without demanding instant certainty. For this moment, let it be enough that you are here, breathing, and no longer fighting yourself. Step 2. Imagine love from the inside after it has become real. Now, we will use imagination, but we will not begin with the face of a specific person. When you concentrate only on one individual, the practice can become an attempt to control their feelings or decisions. Instead, imagine the quality of a relationship in which both people participate freely. Let your inner picture be organized around respect, peace, honesty, affection, and reciprocity. Ask yourself, if I were loved in a way that was truly right for me, how would my body feel? Perhaps the stomach would not be constantly tight. Perhaps the shoulders would remain softer because you would not be waiting for the next withdrawal. Perhaps your breathing would feel easier because you could tell the truth without fearing that every disagreement would end the relationship. Do not insist upon perfect relaxation. Even healthy intimacy can awaken vulnerability. You are simply noticing the difference between aliveness and chronic alarm. Love may contain excitement, longing, and uncertainty, but it should not require you to live in continuous confusion. Now ask, how would I speak if I felt respected? Perhaps you would express a preference without apologizing for having one. You would ask a direct question rather than studying every message for hidden meanings. You would say when something hurt and remain willing to hear another perspective. You would not need to become silent to preserve affection. Ask, how would I choose if I trusted that love could be mutual? You might move more slowly. You might allow another person's consistent actions to reveal their readiness. You might stop turning occasional attention into a promise. You might notice not only whether you desire them, but whether the relationship supports the person you are becoming. Now enter one very simple scene. Imagine sharing a quiet meal with someone whose presence feels respectful. You do not need to see every feature of their face. Notice the atmosphere. There is no performance. You can pause before speaking. You can laugh naturally. You can have a different opinion without the room becoming emotionally dangerous. Listen inwardly to a warm conversation. Hear yourself say something honest, and imagine it being received with curiosity rather than punishment. Hear the other person speak, and notice that you are listening without preparing to defend yourself. Both people have room in the exchange. Imagine another scene in which you each have separate plans. One person spends time with friends, works on a personal goal, or rests alone. There is no need to use distance as a threat. Space does not cancel affection, because trust is not being maintained through constant monitoring. Let your senses make the scene gently believable. Notice the warmth of the room, the sound of a calm voice, the weight of your feet on the floor, or the ease of your breathing. The goal is not a detailed fantasy. It is to help the mind become familiar with the emotional qualities of safe connection. End the scene by noticing yourself. You are not disappearing into the relationship. You still have your voice, interests, friends, purpose, and inner life. Love has joined your life. It has not replaced it. Say, I welcome love that allows me to remain fully myself. I recognize respect, honesty, steadiness, and mutual care as forms of attraction. Step 3, anchor the feeling I am loved. Remain with the emotional quality of the scene for a few moments. You do not need a powerful sensation. A small warmth in the chest, a slight sense of relief, or one calmer breath is enough. The subconscious often learns through repetition and experience, not emotional drama. Gentle familiarity may be more useful than intensity. Let the words "I am loved" describe an inner relationship as well as a future partnership. You are loved when you listen to your own exhaustion and allow rest. You are loved when you stop using someone's silence to attack your worth. You are loved when you choose people who treat your openness with care. The state begins in the way you participate in your own life. Do not use the feeling to begin checking for results. If you immediately ask, "Where is the person? When will they arrive? Is this a sign?" you leave the feeling of love and return to the experience of waiting. Desire is natural, but continuous checking teaches the mind that love is still absent and must be monitored. Instead, let the feeling be complete for this moment. You are not claiming ownership of another person or guaranteeing a timeline. You are affirming the kind of experience you are willing to recognize and support. Say, "Healthy love is becoming natural and familiar to me. I am ready for affection that moves in both directions. I live from the awareness that I am worthy of love and respect." If these statements feel too far away, soften them. I am willing to let healthy love become more familiar. I am learning to receive mutual care. I am beginning to treat myself as someone worthy of respect. Choose the version that your inner world can receive without force. Healing does not require you to recite the strongest sentence. It asks you to practice the most loving truth you can honestly approach today. Then bring gratitude into the practice. Thank yourself for the ability to love. Remember a moment when you listened, comforted, encouraged, forgave, or remained present with another person. These memories demonstrate that love already has expression through you. Also, become grateful for the relationship with yourself that is being repaired. You may not always respond perfectly, but you are listening more closely. You are questioning old assumptions. You are learning not to trade your dignity for temporary closeness. That movement deserves acknowledgement. End by saying, "I am grateful for the love already alive within me. I bless the relationship I am creating with myself, and I remain open to sharing that love with someone capable of meeting me in mutual care." A new belief can feel delicate before it becomes familiar. You may leave the practice feeling hopeful and immediately tell several people what you visualized. One person responds with cynicism, another tells you love is impossible, and someone else insists that your standards are unrealistic. Suddenly, the quiet possibility within you becomes crowded by other people's fears. You do not need to share every new desire while it is still taking shape. Privacy is not secrecy born from shame. It can be a form of protection. You are allowing a new understanding to develop before exposing it to constant commentary. This is especially important if you have relied heavily on external reassurance. Asking many people whether love will come may provide relief for a few minutes, but it can train you to distrust your own process. Each new opinion sends you outward again. One person says to wait, another says to pursue, and a third interprets every event as a sign. The result is often more confusion rather than guidance. Return to the qualities you identified. Does a connection include respect, honesty, peace, and reciprocity? Are words supported by actions? Can you remain yourself? These questions provide more useful guidance than repeated predictions about whether someone is the one. Privacy does not require complete isolation. Share with a person who can support your growth without controlling it. Choose someone who respects boundaries, understands that healthy love develops over time, and does not treat your vulnerability as entertainment. A trustworthy person can help you see clearly while still returning the decision to you. You may also seek professional support if old relationship patterns create overwhelming fear or repeatedly lead you into harmful situations. Protecting your vision does not mean refusing informed guidance. It means being thoughtful about whose voice receives access to your inner life. Keep the new image quiet, but do not use silence as a substitute for action. Visualization does not introduce you to people, communicate your needs, or reveal another person's character over time. Continue participating in life. Accept appropriate invitations. Explore interests. Join communities. Speak to people. Let yourself be visible in ways that feel genuine. When you meet someone, communicate rather than silently testing them against an invisible script. Ask what they want. Express your own intentions. Observe how both of you handle difference, disappointment, and responsibility. A beautiful inner vision should help you recognize reality more clearly, not encourage you to replace reality with imagination. Say, I protect my growing belief in healthy love. I share my inner life with discernment. Listen to wise support and continue taking real steps toward connection. Receiving love is a skill. If care has often been inconsistent, a sincere compliment may make you suspicious. Someone's reliability may feel unfamiliar. You may reject assistance because depending on anyone, even briefly, feels dangerous. To sustain a healthy relationship, you must gradually expand your ability to receive without immediately defending against what is being offered. Begin with small moments. When someone compliments you, say, "Thank you," instead of explaining why the praise is inaccurate. When a trusted person offers help, consider accepting a reasonable portion. When someone remembers something important to you, let the gesture matter. You do not have to turn one act of kindness into proof of lifelong devotion. Simply allow it to be good. Receiving wisely is not ignoring discernment. Trust should still grow through consistent behavior. You are learning the middle path between rejecting every kindness and trusting every promise. You can appreciate a moment while allowing time to reveal the larger pattern. A person who can hold love also communicates needs. No partner can reliably guess everything happening within you. Silence may feel safer, but unspoken expectations often become resentment. Practice expressing what helps you feel respected. Advance notice when plans change. Time to process conflict, verbal affection, practical support, honesty, or personal space. Speak in a way that reveals rather than accuses. I feel more secure when plans are communicated clearly, offers information. If you loved me, you would already know. Turns the need into a test. Healthy communication gives the other person a real opportunity to understand and respond. You must also keep your identity. Continue developing your goals, friendships, interests, and relationship with yourself. Love should not require your whole world to shrink around one connection. Personal space allows both people to bring fresh life back into the relationship. Observe consistency. Words can be beautiful, especially at the beginning, but a relationship is lived through patterns. Does the person follow through? Can they take responsibility after a mistake? Do they remain respectful when disappointed? Are they interested in your reality or only in how you make them feel? You are not searching for perfection. Everyone will have limitations, difficult days, and learning to do. You are looking for a stable willingness to participate. A person capable of healthy love does not merely promise connection during intense moments. They help create it through ordinary behavior. Say, I am learning to receive love without losing discernment. I express my needs clearly, maintain my own life, and allow consistent actions to guide my trust. Perhaps your old identity was the person who must be chosen. Every interaction became an audition. You studied what the other person wanted and adjusted yourself accordingly. Your own choice seemed secondary because selection itself felt like victory. Your new identity includes the right to choose. You ask whether the person's values, emotional availability, communication, and direction are compatible with yours. You notice how you feel after spending time together. You remember that mutual selection is the beginning of relationship, not a prize awarded to the more convincing person. Perhaps you once believed you had to prove your worth through beauty, usefulness, patience, or endless forgiveness. Your new identity recognizes that you already bring value. You are not a finished person, but neither is anyone you meet. You offer your particular combination of kindness, history, humor, perspective, affection, and willingness to grow. Perhaps you were the person who feared losing love so intensely that you lost yourself first. You tolerated confusion, suppressed needs, or accepted behavior that injured your peace. Your new identity understands that suitable love does not ask for self-erasure as the cost of remaining connected. This does not mean every relationship will last. Healthy people may still discover incompatibility or choose different directions. The new identity is not, no one will ever leave me. It is, if a relationship changes or ends, I will not turn against myself. I will grieve, learn, seek support, and remain connected to my worth. Finally, release the identity of someone waiting to be completed. A partner may enrich your life profoundly, but they cannot live your inner life for you. You bring a whole human being into partnership, not a perfect person, but a person whose worth is already intact. Say, I am not waiting to be completed. I am a whole person ready to share, learn, receive, and grow beside another whole person. I choose as well as being chosen. One sign of change is greater peace when you are alone. Solitude no longer automatically means rejection. You use the space to rest, create, nurture friendships, and build a life that reflects your values. You may still desire partnership, but the absence of a relationship does not turn the present into an empty hallway. Another sign is that ambiguity becomes less attractive. What once felt exciting may begin to feel exhausting. Intermittent attention no longer creates the same fascination because your mind is learning to associate love with clarity. You stop interpreting confusion as depth. You may also find it easier to receive kindness. A considerate person does not immediately seem suspicious or dull. You do not have to invent a hidden motive behind every caring action. You remain observant, but safety is gradually becoming something you can experience rather than something you automatically distrust. Your choices may become slower. You no longer treat every connection as the last opportunity love will ever offer. You allow attraction to exist without turning it immediately into commitment. You give yourself time to learn who the other person is and how the two of you function together. You may recover more quickly when something does not work. Disappointment still hurts, but it does not produce the same collapse of identity. You can say, "This connection was not right," rather than, "Love is not meant for me." The experience becomes information, not prophecy. You may notice that your body gives clearer feedback. After years of ignoring tension, you begin recognizing when a relationship repeatedly leaves you unsettled. You also notice when connection feels spacious enough for you to breathe, speak, and remain present. These sensations are clues to consider alongside facts and behavior, not absolute verdicts. But you no longer dismiss them automatically. Most importantly, you become more faithful to yourself. You do not need perfect confidence before honoring a need. You do not punish yourself for caring. You allow your heart to remain open while your discernment remains awake. End this practice by saying, "My subconscious is learning a new experience of love. Peace is becoming familiar. Clarity is becoming attractive. Mutual care is becoming natural. I do not rush what needs time, and I do not force what requires another person's free participation. I trust myself to recognize love that respects my heart, my voice, and my future. I am open to being loved, and I remain lovingly connected to myself." The following 7 expressions of inner beauty have very little to do with perfection. They are not rules for becoming more attractive, and they are not another list of standards you must satisfy before you are allowed to love yourself. They are ways in which self-love becomes visible in ordinary life. Beauty appears in your attention, your pace, your ability to listen, and the way your body feels in your presence. It appears when you no longer enter every room asking, "How am I being judged?" It appears when you become available to the moment instead of continually performing for approval. Beauty is not something I must earn. It is a quality of life already expressing through me. Many people stand before a mirror and immediately search for something to correct. They look at the skin, hair, weight, shape, age, or marks left by time. The mirror becomes an inspection station rather than a place of recognition. You may have practiced this habit for so many years that you no longer notice its cruelty. Before you see your eyes, you see the line beside them. Before you greet your body, you measure it against an image created to make ordinary human variation feel inadequate. Yet you are not a collection of features waiting to pass an examination. Your beauty is also the atmosphere you carry into a room. It is the warmth another person feels when you listen without preparing your reply. It is the gentleness in your hands when you care for your body. It is the steadiness of someone who does not need to become smaller or louder in order to deserve presence. When your inner life is nourished, the outer expression often softens naturally. Your jaw releases. Your eyes become less guarded. Your posture no longer apologizes for occupying space. When I stop performing beauty, I allow my natural presence to become visible. You do not have to reach a new physical standard before self-love may begin. Love is not a trophy awarded after the body changes. Love is the environment in which the body can be cared for wisely. Hatred may produce temporary control, but it rarely creates a peaceful relationship with nourishment, movement, health, or rest. When you approach the body as an enemy, Every act of care becomes punishment. When you approach it as a living companion, care becomes cooperation. The first expression of inner beauty is the ability to stop fighting time and return to the present. How often do you say, "There is never enough time"? Notice what happens in the body when you repeat this sentence. The shoulders lift, the breath becomes shallow, the mind races ahead while the hands remain in the present task. You answer one message while thinking about another. You eat while planning, listen while composing a reply, and finish one obligation only to accuse yourself of not completing 5 more. A mind that is always rushing toward the next moment cannot fully receive the life occurring in this one. The number of hours in a day is limited, and affirmations do not make the clock obey us. When I say, "Time is my servant, and I use it wisely," I am speaking about the relationship you create with time. Your experience changes according to your attention, expectations, and choices. When you are calm, you can identify what matters. When you are panicked, even a simple task feels like evidence that you are falling behind. The clock may be the same, but your participation is entirely different. Sometimes "I have no time" actually means I have agreed to more than my current capacity can carry. Sometimes it means that attention is being divided across too many interruptions. Sometimes it means you have estimated a task according to hope rather than reality. And sometimes the sentence protects you from admitting that something is not a priority. None of these discoveries requires shame. They require an honest relationship with capacity. Do not try to control every minute. Learn to care for energy and focus. Some tasks require your clearest hours. Others can be completed when energy is lower. Some obligations belong to you, and others were accepted because saying no felt uncomfortable. Some goals are meaningful, and others survive only because abandoning them would disappoint an earlier version of you. I make room for what matters by releasing what no longer deserves equal importance. Each morning, choose 3 sufficient tasks. The first is one important action that meaningfully moves work, responsibility, or a valued goal forward. The second maintains daily life, preparing food, paying a bill, caring for the home, attending an appointment, or responding to something necessary. The third nourishes your inner life, reading, walking, creating, talking with someone you love, sitting quietly, or engaging in a simple pleasure. These 3 tasks are not the only things you may do. They establish enoughness before the day becomes crowded. Anything beyond them can be additional rather than proof that you are finally productive enough. At the end of the day, do not judge your worth according to the longest possible list. Ask whether you gave honest attention to what mattered. My completed tasks describe part of my day. They do not determine the value of my being. When interruptions occur, return without insulting yourself. A distracted hour does not require a distracted day. An unexpected demand may change the plan without proving that you failed. Adjust the list. Move what can wait. Ask for support where appropriate. Time used wisely includes the ability to respond to reality rather than forcing reality to obey a schedule created under different conditions. Try doing one thing at a time for several minutes. When writing, write. When listening, listen. When eating, notice the meal. When resting, stop using rest to rehearse the work you are not doing. Presence reduces the mental cost of repeatedly switching between unfinished activities. It also returns texture to the day. I have enough time for what truly matters today. I move calmly, clearly, and fully through this present moment. The second expression of inner beauty is allowing yourself to rest before exhaustion gives you no other choice. Many people have learned to treat fatigue as evidence of usefulness. They push until the body produces a headache, the mind loses patience, or every ordinary request feels unbearable. Only then do they permit themselves to stop. But rest offered only after collapse is not a reward. It is emergency maintenance. Continuous work can create the sensation of productivity while gradually reducing the quality of thought. The mind becomes less flexible. Creativity narrows. Small difficulties produce disproportionate frustration. You may remain at the desk longer while accomplishing less. A short break can interrupt this decline. It allows the eyes to change focus, the body to shift position, and attention to return with greater freshness. Rest does not steal time from meaningful work. It helps restore the person who performs it. There is no perfect rule that fits every body and every form of work. Some people benefit from brief pauses at regular intervals. Others need longer periods of concentration followed by a more substantial break. Physical labor, caregiving, creative work, screen work, and emotionally demanding conversations do not exhaust the body in identical ways. Observe yourself. Notice the first signs that quality is decreasing. Perhaps you reread the same sentence, become unusually irritable, lose physical comfort, or begin reaching for constant distraction. These are invitations to pause before depletion becomes severe. Do not wait for a headache before drinking water. Do not wait until anger spills onto another person before stepping away from the screen. Do not wait until every activity feels meaningless before permitting a day off. If you require total exhaustion as proof that rest is deserved, the body learns that its quiet signals will be ignored. Eventually, it must speak more loudly. I listen when my body whispers so that it does not always have to shout. A break does not need to become another performance. You do not have to optimize every moment of rest. Stand near a window, stretch gently if it is appropriate for your body. Drink something nourishing. Close your eyes for a moment. Walk a short distance without turning the pause into more digital consumption. Let the nervous system experience a few minutes in which nothing is being demanded. The child within you also needs play. If every hour is organized around usefulness, the inner world becomes very serious. Play may be music, color, humor, movement, curiosity, or doing something imperfectly for no reward. You do not need to monetize it, display it, or become excellent at it. Joy does not need to justify the space it occupies in my life. A vacation can also be simple and financially responsible. Rest should not produce months of anxiety because you believed recovery had to look luxurious. Plan according to your actual resources. A nearby journey, an afternoon without work, a day in nature, a quiet visit, or a home-based retreat from usual demands can still restore you. The value lies not only in distance traveled, but in the permission to disengage from constant responsibility. Before a period of rest, decide what you are resting from. Perhaps it is work, decision-making, caretaking, screens, noise, or the pressure to be available. Create a clear beginning and ending so the mind knows it may release the task temporarily. When you return, notice whether thought is clearer and patience more available. I plan rest as part of a wise life, not as an escape from a life I refuse to examine. Time and rest belong together. When you stop racing against the clock, you can notice fatigue before it becomes collapse. When you rest at appropriate intervals, you return to time with greater clarity. Both practices soften the face because the body is no longer living under constant pursuit. Both change the way you enter a room because you are not asking everyone around you to compensate for your depletion. There is a part of you that does not care about achievement, efficiency, or being impressive. It wants to touch color, hear music, laugh unexpectedly, make something imperfect, and enjoy the experience simply because it feels alive. This is the child within you. The inner child is not childishness. It is your capacity for curiosity, wonder, imagination, spontaneity, and joy without a reward attached. When this part is repeatedly ignored, adult life may become very orderly and very empty. You may complete every responsibility correctly and still wonder why nothing feels deeply satisfying. A life filled with accomplishments can still feel unfinished when there is no room for wonder. Many people believe that play is a waste of time for an adult. They allow themselves to do something only if it improves health, earns money, develops a skill, or produces something that can be shown to others. Even leisure becomes another project to optimize. You choose a hobby and immediately ask whether you are good at it. You take a photograph and wonder whether it is good enough to share. You begin to dance and then judge how your body looks. The child within you does not need another evaluator. She needs permission to participate. Think back to what made you feel alive before you learned to measure every activity by usefulness. Did you draw without wondering whether you were talented? Did you sing before you became concerned about your voice? Did you invent stories, arrange tiny objects, climb trees, ride a bicycle, dance in private, build things, collect colors, or watch the same beloved film again and again? What made you forget time before forgetting time became something to feel guilty about? What brought me joy before I learned to perform may still contain medicine for my spirit. Do not worry if you cannot remember. Some childhoods offered very little room for play. You may have carried adult responsibilities too early. You may have learned to remain quiet, useful, or watchful. If so, you are not trying to recover an ideal childhood that never existed. You are giving yourself an experience that was missing. Begin with curiosity. What seems pleasant now? What would I try if no one could grade me? Make one weekly appointment with your inner child. Keep it small enough that it does not become another burden. You might color a page, prepare a meal you loved years ago, ride a bicycle, listen to music and move without watching yourself, make something with your hands, or revisit a story that once comforted you. You may buy yourself one small, meaningful gift within your budget. It is not the expense that matters. It is the message. Your delight has a place in my adult life. During this appointment, resist the urge to turn play into improvement. If you color, the colors do not have to match. If you dance, there is no correct shape. If you cook, the meal does not need to become content. If you make something, it does not have to be sold. Let the experience end without producing evidence of value. Joy is allowed to be complete even when it creates nothing I can display. You may initially feel foolish or restless. The inner child may not trust an invitation that has been withdrawn many times before. Stay gentle. 10 sincere minutes are better than an elaborate plan you resent. Consistency tells this part that pleasure will not always be sacrificed to productivity. Say, the child within me knows how to play, love, and wonder. I make room for that wisdom in my adult life. Another way to keep the heart young is to connect across generations. When we spend time only with people in our exact stage of life, the world can become very narrow. We share the same pressures, cultural references, fears, and assumptions. A child, an older person, or someone living in a different life season may introduce a way of seeing that your usual environment cannot provide. Children can remind you how completely attention can enter a moment. They ask questions adults stopped asking because familiarity made the world invisible. They laugh without first deciding whether laughter is appropriate. They may become fascinated by a shadow, a sound, or an object you would normally walk past. Do not only teach them, listen to the logic of their questions. Let their curiosity reveal where your own perception has become hurried. Connections with children should, of course, occur in safe, responsible, and appropriate settings with family, community, consent, supervision, and clear respect for their well-being. A child is not present to heal the emotional needs of an adult. The gift comes through mutual human presence, not through placing a role upon them. I meet the young with responsibility, respect, and a willingness to rediscover wonder. Older people offer another kind of gift. They have watched problems arrive, change shape, and sometimes lose the importance they once appeared to possess. They carry memories of worlds that no longer exist and may hold a longer view of love, work, family, regret, survival, and change. Do not treat an older person only as someone who needs assistance. They also need opportunities to contribute, remember, teach, laugh, and be listened to. Ask about a decision that changed their life. Ask what they worried about at your age and what now seems less important. Ask what they wish they had enjoyed more. Their answer is not a command for your life, but it may widen the frame around your present problem. Wisdom becomes a living gift when experience is invited to speak. Intergenerational connection offers perspective, playfulness, and legacy. Perspective places today's difficulty inside a larger human journey. Playfulness reminds you that delight does not have an age limit. Legacy asks what qualities you wish to pass forward. Perhaps you want younger people to inherit less shame, greater emotional honesty, more tenderness toward the body, or a healthier understanding of success. You begin creating that legacy through the way you live now. I welcome the laughter, wisdom, and perspective that flow between generations. The fifth expression of inner beauty appears in the way you prepare for sleep. The final minutes of the day matter because they influence the emotional atmosphere in which the mind and body enter rest. If you end every evening with conflict, alarming news, comparison, or an inventory of everything you did wrong, the body carries that activation into bed. You may be physically lying down while the mind remains on duty. This does not mean that one loving thought guarantees perfect sleep or that dreams will answer every question. Sleep is influenced by health, environment, routine, stress, medication, and many other factors. Persistent sleep problems may require appropriate professional care. Yet you can still make the threshold of sleep more supportive. I do not use the last moments of the day to place myself on trial. Choose a point when the day is officially complete. Write down what remains unfinished rather than asking the mind to hold it all night. Reduce stimulating content when possible. Dim the emotional intensity, not only the light. If a conversation is becoming hostile, consider whether it can continue more wisely tomorrow. The night does not need to solve everything the day could not finish. If a problem needs clarity, write 3 sentences. First, the issue I would like to understand more clearly is. Second, what might I not be seeing? Third, what is the simplest, useful step tomorrow? Then close the page. Say, I release this question for the night. My mind may rest, organize, and renew itself without my supervision. Notice the kindness of that sentence. You are not demanding that sleep produce a miraculous answer. You are releasing conscious pressure. Rest sometimes allows information to settle into a clearer arrangement. A problem that felt impossible at midnight may look more manageable after sleep, not because the universe secretly completed it, but because your cognitive and emotional resources have been renewed. When you wake, record a dream, emotion, phrase, or first idea if it feels meaningful. Do not turn every symbol into a prophecy. Dreams may draw upon memory, fear, desire, bodily sensation, and the mind's ordinary processing. Treat them as material for reflection rather than unquestionable instruction. Ask, what feeling does this image bring forward? What concern or longing may it represent? Then return to the facts of waking life. Before sleep, offer the body a final message. This day is complete. I release what I cannot resolve tonight. I go to sleep with loving thoughts, and I welcome the clarity that rest can bring. You do not have to feel perfectly peaceful for the words to be useful. They establish a direction away from accusation and toward restoration. The 6th expression of inner beauty is the choice of relational environments. Human emotional states influence one another. When every conversation revolves around ridicule, helplessness, suspicion, and complaint, you may begin seeing life through the same lens. When you spend time with people who practice honesty, responsibility, humor, and realistic hope, you remember that other responses are possible. The relationships I repeatedly enter become part of the emotional atmosphere in which I live. This does not mean labeling everyone who feels sad as negative. Grief is not bad energy. Depression, fear, anger, and discouragement do not make a person unworthy of companionship. A loving relationship can hold difficulty. The important distinction is how difficulty is handled. A suitable person may be struggling deeply, but they do not demand that you abandon your own stability to prove that you care. They can speak about pain and eventually consider support, information, or possible action when they are ready. They respect your emotional capacity and allow you to say, I cannot have this conversation now. They listen as well as speak. They do not use intimacy as permission to continually insult, manipulate, or diminish you. A person can be in pain without making pain the price of being close to them. Choose friends by qualities rather than by image or constant agreement. Look for love that becomes visible through concern. Look for honesty that is not used as an excuse for cruelty. Look for humor that creates connection without humiliating someone. Look for people who can take responsibility, apologize, and repair. Welcome encouragement that sees your potential without flattering you into dependence. Choose relationships where both people are free to grow. Ask how you feel after repeated contact. Do you feel more able to be yourself or more compelled to edit yourself? Are your successes welcomed or subtly punished? Can you discuss differences without the relationship becoming a threat? Is support mutual over time? You are not searching for perfect people. You are noticing whether the relationship allows truth, dignity, and development. I surround myself with people who express love, honesty, growth, and mutual support. You may need to reduce time in environments built around chronic mockery or hopelessness. Do this without declaring yourself spiritually superior. You are not better than the people you step away from. You are responsible for the atmosphere you repeatedly inhabit. Sometimes distance is not rejection. It is an adjustment that allows you to remain kind without becoming depleted. The seventh expression of inner beauty appears in your relationship with money. Many people approach money through shame. They avoid looking at numbers, feel punished by every bill, spend to regulate painful emotions, or use purchases to create an image of worth. Then financial life becomes charged with secrecy and fear. Love invites clarity. A bill represents an obligation, but it may also reflect an exchange. The electricity bill is connected to light, cooling, heat, or the tools you used. Rent or a mortgage is connected to shelter. A payment for professional help represents someone's time, skill, and service. Taxes contribute to public systems, even though you retain the right to question how those systems are managed. Recognizing value can reduce the feeling that every payment is something being stolen from you. I can appreciate what money provided while remaining thoughtful about what I spend. Gratitude does not replace financial management. You still need to look at balances, distinguish needs from wants, plan for obligations, and adjust spending when circumstances change. If debt, taxes, investments, or financial distress exceed your knowledge, seek qualified help. An affirmation is not a budget, and optimism is not a payment plan. But shame makes clear action harder, while respect makes information easier to face. Create a simple ritual when paying an obligation. Say, "Thank you for the value I received. I release this money with awareness, and I welcome new income through honest and useful work." Then record the payment. Know what remains. Make the next decision from actual numbers rather than fear. Do not force yourself to be generous when generosity threatens your basic safety. Love for money includes protecting the future. It may mean declining an impulsive purchase, refusing financial pressure, setting aside a small amount, or admitting that an expense no longer fits your resources. It also means not shopping to prove that you are successful, lovable, fashionable, or generous. I manage my finances with gratitude, clarity, and self-respect. Now let us turn toward outer beauty, because the body should not become a project that is never allowed to be complete. Your body does not exist to win a competition. You do not have to compare today's face with the face you had at 20. You do not have to compare your living body with an edited image designed under different lighting, angles, resources, genetics, and circumstances. A comparison without context becomes a weapon. Bodies change through age, hormones, health conditions, sleep, medication, genetics, stress, environment, and the ordinary passage of life. Not every physical change is caused by thought. You are not to blame for illness, aging, injury, or features you did not choose. Loving thoughts can support a kinder relationship with care, but they do not replace medical evaluation or guarantee a particular appearance. My body is not evidence of whether I have thought perfectly. You also do not need to love every feature immediately. If I adore every part of my body feels impossible, begin with recognition. Look into the mirror and say, "This is my face today." Notice the neutrality of the statement. Then say, "This body has carried me through many experiences." Perhaps appreciation can begin before admiration. Try, "I am willing to stop speaking to myself with cruelty." This may be the most important beginning. You can care for a body while learning to accept it. You can choose nourishing food without hating your shape. You can seek treatment without treating the body as defective. You can change clothing, hair, or appearance because expression brings joy, not because your unaltered self is unacceptable. Care does not have to wait for complete acceptance. Beauty is not only seen, it is felt. A person becomes attractive through the attention in their eyes, the respect they show someone who cannot advance their status, and the way they listen when another person speaks. Beauty appears in laughter that does not require a victim. It appears in confidence that does not lower anyone else. It appears in the ease people feel when they are not being evaluated in your presence. This form of beauty cannot be manufactured entirely through appearance. You can style the surface, and there is joy in doing so. But presence creates another dimension. A face softens when it is not continually defending worth. A voice becomes warmer when it does not have to perform importance. The beauty people feel around me grows from the quality of presence I offer. Care for your appearance as an expression of pleasure rather than endless correction. Wear a color that makes you feel alive. Care for your hair and skin as a ritual of contact with the body. Choose clothes that fit the body you have today instead of punishing it with garments intended for a different body. Move in ways appropriate to your health because movement can create connection, strength, mobility, and pleasure, not only because you want to burn away something you hate. Say, "My body is not an apology. It is a living expression of my journey." Allow grooming to become companionship. Touch your face with kindness. Notice what your body has done for you before listing what you want it to change. Beauty care becomes self-love when the person receiving the care is already considered worthy. Now stand before a mirror. Move close enough to see your pupils. Resist the habit of scanning the skin, weight, lines, or proportions. Look into the eyes. Take one breath and recognize how much the person before you has lived through. This is not a stranger. This is the human being who has accompanied every moment of your life. Begin with the first level. I am willing to stop criticizing the way you look. You do not have to leap directly from attack to adoration. End the attack first. If the critical voice appears, say, "That is an old habit. I am practicing another way." Remain before the mirror for 10 seconds without correcting anything. Move to recognition. I see your courage, tenderness, wisdom, and strength. Let one memory support each word. Courage may be the day you began again. Tenderness may be the care you offered someone. Wisdom may be the lesson you finally used. Strength may be the boundary you kept even while feeling sad. Then say, "You are beautiful inside and out. I love and accept you as you are today." If resistance rises, soften the sentence. "I am willing to discover your beauty." I am learning to accept you today. A bridge is more loving than a declaration used to silence honest emotion. Ask, what would someone who truly loves me see in these eyes? They might see endurance, humor, sensitivity, curiosity, or a longing to live more freely. Ask how many joys and sorrows this face has expressed. Ask whether you can offer yourself 10 seconds of observation without judgment. I give myself the loving gaze I once waited to receive from others. After mirror work, choose one action that makes life more beautiful. Rest if you are tired. Prepare food that supports you. Wear something you enjoy. Call someone whose presence feels mutual. Play without producing. The mirror affirmation becomes credible when the rest of the day agrees with it. Beauty is affirmed in the mirror and demonstrated in the way I live after I turn away. Create a rhythm rather than another rigid schedule. In the morning, do not begin by comparing your face or life with someone else's. Say, I have all the time I need for what matters today. Choose one meaningful task, one act of care, and one moment of joy. Let these three create the foundation. During the day, alternate focused effort with appropriate restoration. Pause before attention collapses. Drink water before the body must demand it. Include one moment of play or genuine connection. At night, acknowledge something the body helped you do. Complete or schedule one financial responsibility instead of avoiding it. Leave conversations that make the mind unnecessarily heavy. Offer tomorrow one question and let sleep perform the work that belongs to rest. Each week, meet the inner child. Choose one quality connection. Create a longer period of recovery. Review finances without accusation. Participate in an activity that helps you experience beauty instead of merely trying to look beautiful. This rhythm is not a test. Adjust it according to health, responsibilities, resources, and the season of life. Falling in love with yourself is not only standing before a mirror and declaring that you are beautiful. It is refusing to drive the body into exhaustion. It is respecting time, protecting joy, creating room for play, and choosing relationships in which love moves both ways. It is managing money without humiliation and caring for appearance without making the body an enemy. When you stop treating yourself as a project that must someday become worthy, you meet the living person who has been waiting beneath the corrections. You begin to enjoy rather than continually evaluate. Your beauty becomes visible through presence, kindness, humor, self-respect, responsibility, and peace. I am beautiful inside and out. I honor my time, nourish my body, welcome rest, and protect my joy. I allow the child within me to play, wonder, and create without needing to perform. I welcome the wisdom and laughter that flow between generations. I prepare my mind for restorative sleep, choose relationships built on mutual care, and manage my resources with clarity and respect. My body is not an apology or an unfinished project. I care for my appearance with pleasure, not punishment. My beauty is not measured by perfection. It is expressed through the loving way I live. Let me remind you of something beautiful. You may have been hurt, but you are not broken. Something painful may have entered your life. Someone may have betrayed your trust, abandoned you when you needed them, ignored your needs, or taken advantage of the love you so freely gave. After such an experience, it is natural to feel as though something inside you has shattered. Yet the essence of who you are remains whole. Your ability to love has not disappeared. Your worth has not been reduced. Your future has not been permanently decided by what another person failed to give you. A part of you was wounded, and that part is asking for care, not condemnation. Nothing essential within me was ever broken. A part of me was hurt, and now I am learning to care for it with love and wisdom. Very often, the mind begins overthinking after the heart has experienced something it could not understand. It examines every message, every pause, every change in tone, and every small difference in another person's behavior. It asks, what did they mean? Have I done something wrong? Are they preparing to leave? What am I not seeing? The mind believes that if it examines enough details, it will discover danger before danger can reach you. This is not proof that you are weak or irrational. It may be a protective system working far too hard because there was a time when you were not protected, informed, or reassured. My anxious mind is not my enemy. It is a frightened protector that needs a new way to feel safe. You do not heal by attacking this part of yourself. If you say, "Why can't I stop thinking? What is wrong with me?" you add a second wound to the first one. Now you are not only afraid of what another person may do, you are also being rejected by your own inner voice. My dear, this is the moment to remain with yourself. Place a hand gently over your heart and say, I see that you are frightened. I will not shame you for trying to protect me. We will look at what is true, and we will take care of ourselves together. Your nervous system needs to learn that you are no longer alone with the uncertainty. The loving adult within you is present now. A trigger is not necessarily the whole truth of the present moment. A trigger occurs when something happening now touches a memory, expectation, or wound from before. A person becomes quiet, and your body remembers someone who used silence as punishment. You receive criticism, and suddenly you feel like the child who could never do anything correctly. You are excluded from one gathering, and an old belief whispers that nobody wants you. Someone's manner changes, and your body begins preparing for abandonment. The present experience may be uncomfortable, but your reaction can contain years of emotional history. This feeling is real, but it may be carrying an old story. When you are triggered, the body can react before the thinking mind has gathered all the facts. Your chest may tighten. Your stomach may contract. Your breathing may become shallow. You may feel an urgent need to send a message, demand reassurance, withdraw completely, or replay every interaction. Do not make yourself wrong for these sensations. First, help the body recognize where it is. Feel your feet making contact with the floor. Look around and name a few objects in the room. Let your exhalation become slightly longer. Then remind yourself of your present age, your present location, and the choices available to you now. Something old has been awakened, but I am living in the present, and I have choices today. Ask yourself 3 grounding questions. First, what is actually happening right now? Describe only what could be observed without adding an interpretation. Perhaps the person has not replied for several hours. That is the current fact. They are tired of me and preparing to leave is a prediction. Second, ask, Which part is evidence, and which part is fear trying to complete the story? Finally ask, am I responding to the person in front of me, or to someone from my past? These questions do not tell you that everything is fine. They help you stop treating an unverified fear as established reality. I can take my feelings seriously without believing every conclusion they produce. Sometimes your concern will be justified. Perhaps someone truly has become inconsistent. Perhaps their words and behavior no longer match. Perhaps a relationship is asking you to ignore your needs in order to maintain it. Grounding yourself does not mean talking yourself out of what you clearly see. The purpose is to respond from discernment instead of panic. When you are calm enough to separate the present from the past, you can evaluate what is actually happening. You can ask a direct question. You can observe patterns over time. You can establish a limit. You can leave when continued participation requires self-betrayal. Peace does not make me blind. It helps me see without fear distorting the picture. Overthinking is often an attempt to manufacture certainty. The mind says, if I think about this long enough, I will discover the perfect explanation and prevent myself from ever being hurt again. But repeated thinking rarely produces the safety it promises. Instead, one frightening possibility creates another and another, until the mind has built an entire future out of assumptions. You may call this problem solving, but ask yourself whether any new information is being created. Are you arriving at a useful decision, or are you reviewing the same possibilities with increasing distress? More thinking is not always more clarity. When you notice that you are caught in the loop, ask, what do I actually need now? Perhaps you need a fact. If so, look for reliable information. Perhaps you need a conversation. If so, decide what you want to ask without accusation. Perhaps you need to make a decision based on a pattern you have observed for a long time. Perhaps you need to stop checking for one evening and allow the body to rest. Perhaps nothing can be resolved until tomorrow. The mind wants to solve the entire future, but life usually asks only for the next appropriate step. I do not need to resolve every possibility. I need only to meet the reality that is here. You can say, I have thought about this enough for today. Write down what remains unresolved so the mind knows it has not been ignored. Choose when you will return to the issue. Then engage in something that brings you back into your body and your immediate surroundings. Drink water. Take a slow walk. Prepare a nourishing meal. Fold something with your hands. Listen to an ordinary sound without interpreting it. Rest is not avoidance when no useful action is currently available. I am allowed to pause a question that cannot be answered in this moment. There is also an important difference between acknowledging that you were victimized and building your permanent identity around powerlessness. You may truly have been treated unfairly. You may have trusted someone who deceived you. You may have been too young, dependent, isolated, or overwhelmed to protect yourself. Naming this truth is not weakness. You should not be asked to minimize what occurred merely to sound positive. Your pain deserves acknowledgement, and responsibility belongs with the person who made the harmful choice. I refuse to blame myself for another person's decision to harm, deceive, or abandon me. Victim thinking begins when the past becomes proof that you will never have choices again. It says, because this happened, I will always be powerless. It places your entire recovery in the hands of the person who hurt you. If they apologize, perhaps you may heal. If they admit what they did, perhaps you may move forward. If they finally understand your value, perhaps you may feel valuable. But your future cannot remain dependent on the awareness of someone who may never develop it. You did not choose what happened, and you do not have to pretend that you did. Yet today, you can decide what receives continued access to your life. I did not choose what happened to me, but I can choose what is permitted to continue. This choice may begin very quietly. You stop rereading the message that reopens the wound. You ask for support instead of carrying everything alone. You no longer chase an explanation from someone committed to misunderstanding you. You allow yourself to grieve the relationship you hoped for rather than returning to the relationship that exists. You learn what healthy behavior looks like, so familiar pain no longer disguises itself as love. You speak to yourself with the respect you once begged another person to provide. These are not small acts. They are the way you return to yourself. Healing does not mean becoming the same person you were before the pain. Perhaps that earlier version of you was loving but had not learned to protect her energy. Perhaps she confused understanding others with excusing them. Perhaps she remained silent because she feared that honesty would make people leave. Do not heal merely to become available for the same treatment again. Transform. Remain gentle, but become discerning. Remain loving, but include yourself in your love. Remain open, but let consistency earn access to your inner world. I can keep my tender heart without surrendering my wisdom. My dear, anger is not the enemy. Anger often arrives when something within you knows that a line has been crossed. It appears when you have been disrespected, betrayed, dismissed, controlled, or made to feel powerless. It brings energy to the places where you once felt unable to speak. It says, "This mattered. Something was not right. I deserved better than this." So please do not shame yourself for feeling angry. Your anger may have helped you survive a time when sadness felt too vulnerable to touch. It may have stood at the door of your heart when no one else was willing to protect you. My anger is not proof that I am unloving. It is a signal that something important within me needs attention. Yet anger is often a protector, not the deepest wound. If you remain only at the level of anger, you may spend years arguing with what happened without ever reaching the part of you that is still hurting. Anger can keep you moving, but grief asks you to stop. Anger points outward and says, "Look at what they did." Grief turns inward and whispers, "Look at what this cost me." Both voices deserve to be heard. You do not have to choose one and reject the other. You can honor the anger for defending you and then gently ask what it has been guarding. Perhaps beneath your anger is sorrow because you were not loved in the way you needed. Perhaps your trust was broken after you had finally allowed yourself to become vulnerable. Perhaps you feel ashamed that you stayed, returned, believed another promise, or overlooked what now seems obvious. Perhaps you are grieving not only the person, but the future you had imagined with them. Perhaps the deepest fear is that the same experience will happen again, and that you will be unable to protect yourself. These feelings do not make you foolish. They make you human. My anger shows me where I was hurt. My tenderness shows me what now needs healing. Sit somewhere quiet and complete 3 sentences without trying to sound wise or spiritual. First say, "I am angry because." Let the answer be honest. Perhaps you are angry because they lied, because they dismissed your pain, because they asked for loyalty they were unwilling to return. or because you kept giving while they kept taking. Then complete, "This hurts me because." This sentence may lead you beneath the event. It hurts because you wanted to matter. It hurts because you believed you were finally safe. It hurts because you abandoned your own knowing in order to believe their words. Finally complete, what I truly needed then was, perhaps you needed honesty, protection, consistency, reassurance, respect, or permission to leave. Do not use these questions to interrogate yourself. Use them to meet yourself. You are not gathering evidence for a trial against your past. You are allowing a silenced part of you to finish speaking. If tears come, let them come. If nothing comes, do not force it. The body sometimes needs time before it trusts that the listening will continue. Place your hand over your heart and say, "You do not have to reveal everything today. I am willing to listen whenever you are ready." When anger has been present for a long time, you may fear that releasing it means excusing the person who hurt you. It does not. You can stop carrying the emotional fire without deciding that their behavior was acceptable. You can understand your pain without inviting the person back into your life. You can forgive in your own time without restoring trust. The purpose of moving through anger is not to protect the comfort of the person who caused it. The purpose is to free your life from being organized around the wound. I release the burden when I am ready. I do not release the truth. One of the deepest wounds is often self-abandonment. Other people may have disappointed you, but the pain becomes more complicated when you also leave yourself. You abandon yourself when you judge a feeling before asking what it needs. You abandon yourself when your whole body says no and your mouth says yes. You abandon yourself when you continually explain harmful behavior because admitting the truth might require a painful decision. You abandon yourself when you call your needs excessive, inconvenient, or embarrassing. You abandon yourself when you return to an unsafe place merely because loneliness feels unbearable. Self-abandonment can look like love from the outside. You may be endlessly patient. You may give another chance, and then another, and then one more. You may become very skilled at understanding why another person behaves as they do. You may know their childhood wounds, their fears, their pressures, and every reason they cannot treat you well. Yet understanding their pain does not require you to live inside the consequences of it. Compassion for their history must not become cruelty toward your present. I can understand why someone behaves as they do and still decide that the behavior is not acceptable in my life. You also leave yourself when you believe promises while ignoring repeated behavior. Words can be beautiful. Apologies can sound sincere. Intentions can feel convincing. But trust must eventually rest upon what is consistently lived. When words and actions repeatedly disagree, the actions are giving you the clearer information. This does not mean that people cannot change. It means that change must become observable before you build your safety upon it. I listen to words and I trust patterns. Healing begins when you make a new promise. I will not leave myself to keep someone else. Say it slowly. Notice what happens in your body. Perhaps part of you fears that remaining loyal to yourself will cause others to reject you. That fear may come from a time when belonging depended on obedience, silence, or emotional performance. Reassure this part. Say, I do not need to betray my needs in order to deserve connection. The right relationships may require flexibility and compromise, but they will not require the disappearance of your dignity. When pain appears, tell yourself, I believe that I am feeling something important. This does not mean every interpretation is correct. Feelings provide information, but they do not always provide the complete explanation. You can respect a feeling and still examine the facts. You can say, something feels wrong, and I will take time to understand what it is. You can say, I am hurt, and I do not have to make a decision at the peak of this emotion. Believing yourself is not the same as obeying every impulse. It means refusing to dismiss your experience before you have listened. Tell yourself, I will not force myself to be fine before I am ready. You are not required to recover quickly so that other people can avoid discomfort. You may need time to grieve, reflect, sleep, seek support, or adjust to a new reality. Healing is not measured by how rapidly you stop mentioning what happened. It is measured by your growing ability to remain present without being ruled by the wound. Some days will feel peaceful, and then one small event may awaken the old pain. This does not mean that you have returned to the beginning. It means another layer is asking for care. Also, remind yourself, I will choose what protects my long-term self-respect, not only what reduces my loneliness for one evening. Temporary loneliness can tempt you to return to familiar harm. You may miss the person, the routine, the hope, or even the intensity. Missing something does not automatically mean it belongs in your life. A craving for contact can be real without being a trustworthy direction. Stay with the feeling long enough to learn what it is asking for. You may need comfort, companionship, reassurance, touch, or a sense of belonging. Seek the true need without returning to the source that repeatedly wounded it. You are not healing so that you can become exactly who you were before the pain. The earlier version of you may have been loving and sincere, but perhaps that version ignored warning signs. Perhaps you remained too long because you thought endurance proved devotion. Perhaps you confused sacrifice with love and self-erasure with kindness. Perhaps you believed that if you gave enough, understood enough, or forgave quickly enough, someone would finally choose to treat you well. Do not condemn the person you were. She acted with the understanding and emotional resources available to her then. I bless who I was, and I allow myself to become more discerning now. Transformation does not require a hard heart. You do not need to become cold, suspicious, or unreachable in order to be safe. A closed heart may prevent pain, but it can also prevent intimacy, joy, and genuine connection. The goal is not to build a wall against everyone. The goal is to become a wise guardian of your inner life. You can remain compassionate while observing behavior. You can forgive without erasing the facts. You can love another person without removing yourself from the circle of that love. I do not return to who I was. I become wiser without becoming harder. 3 abilities help create this new version of you. The first is discernment. Discernment pays attention to what a person consistently does, not only to what you hope they mean. It looks at patterns over time. It notices how problems are handled, whether responsibility is accepted, and whether repair produces change. Discernment is not cynicism. It does not assume that everyone will hurt you. It simply allows trust to grow at the pace of evidence rather than at the speed of longing. The second ability is self-trust. Self-trust says, my inner response deserves attention, and I am also willing to check it against reality. You do not dismiss a concern because someone calls you sensitive. You also do not automatically decide that every fear is intuition. You pause. You gather facts. You notice consistency. You consider whether the present situation resembles an old one or truly repeats it. I trust myself enough to feel, question, observe, and decide. Genuine self-trust does not require instant certainty. It gives you permission to remain curious until the truth becomes clearer. The third ability is self-protection. Protection means acting when an important limit has been violated. It may mean naming what occurred, reducing access, leaving a conversation, seeking professional guidance, or ending a relationship. It may also mean protecting your body through rest and appropriate medical or psychological care. Self-protection is not punishment. You are not setting a limit to teach someone a lesson. You are setting it because your well-being is your responsibility now. I protect myself without hatred, and I leave without needing to destroy. Kindness must live beside discernment. Kindness is sacred, but it is not unlimited access to your time, body, attention, home, money, or emotional labor. You can recognize the frightened child within another person while still responding to the adult behavior they choose today. You can understand that someone was wounded without volunteering to become the place where they discharge the wound. You can wish them healing and still say, "You may not treat me this way." Compassion can explain behavior, but it does not require me to accept behavior that repeatedly harms me. Loyalty must also have a living response. Remaining loyal to someone who repeatedly betrays you does not guarantee that they will eventually recognize your value. Unrestricted giving may simply teach another person that they can receive without responsibility. Healthy love contains exchange. It may not be equal in every moment, especially during illness or hardship, but over time there is mutual concern. Both people matter. Both people can speak. Both people participate in repair. I offer loyalty where loyalty is honored, and I offer trust where trust is demonstrated. When evaluating a relationship, ask 4 clear questions. Do the person's words and actions agree? Do they take responsibility when they cause harm? Or do they reverse the blame and make you apologize for being hurt? Does their apology produce changed behavior or merely restart the same cycle? Can you be fully yourself, or must you continually become smaller to preserve peace? Do not answer these questions with the potential you see in the other person. Answer with the behavior you have consistently experienced. I relate to who a person is showing me they are, not only to who I hope they may become. This does not mean one human mistake must always end a relationship. People become tired, misunderstand one another, react poorly, and make choices they regret. A mistake can be acknowledged, repaired, and learned from. What you no longer accept is a clearly identified pattern that continues after honest conversation and reasonable opportunity for change. Deception, humiliation, manipulation, violence, and violations of safety are not ordinary misunderstandings. When there is real danger, prioritize leaving and finding support. You do not owe another opportunity so that you can collect more evidence of what has already become clear. Learn to distinguish a mistake from a pattern. A mistake is named honestly. The person shows concern for its effect, makes amends where possible, and changes the behavior. A pattern is minimized, hidden, justified, or repeatedly blamed upon you. The words may change, but the result remains the same. Danger is different again. Danger asks for protection, distance, and outside help, not prolonged analysis. I may forgive the past, but I do not volunteer to repeat it. You do not need a wall around your heart. You need a door with standards. Honesty is a standard. Respect is a standard. Responsibility is a standard. Consistency is a standard. The door may open gradually as trust grows. It may close when behavior becomes unsafe. A loving heart is allowed to have a wise entrance. My kindness is sacred. I give it freely, but I no longer give it blindly. Now let us create a simple process for the moments when you are triggered. The first step is to stop interpreting. Before you decide what the silence, expression, message, or behavior means, place both feet on the floor. Say, "Something within me has been activated. I do not have to decide what it means yet." This sentence creates space between sensation and conclusion. You are not denying the trigger. You are delaying the story until you are calm enough to see more clearly. The second step is to help the body return to the present. Loosen your jaw. Allow your shoulders to drop. Breathe in naturally and let the exhalation last a little longer. Look around and name 5 things you can see. Feel the support beneath your body. Remind yourself where you are and what day it is. If you are physically safe, say, "In this moment, I am here. In this moment, I can pause." Your body may still be activated, and that is all right. The goal is not instant calm. The goal is enough steadiness to prevent fear from taking complete control. The third step is to separate facts, story, and need. Write down what actually happened. They have not replied since this morning is a fact. They have lost interest and will abandon me, is the story fear may be telling. Then identify the need. Do you need information, reassurance, distance, a direct conversation, more time to observe, a decision based upon an established pattern? When I separate the event from the story, I recover the ability to choose. The fourth step is to respond instead of reacting. Ask directly, rather than constructing an entire explanation in your mind. Wait until your body is steadier before sending an important message. Avoid making life-changing decisions during the highest point of emotional activation unless immediate safety requires action. If genuine danger is present, leave the situation and seek assistance. Calmness is not required before protecting yourself. But when no immediate danger exists, a pause can prevent the old wound from speaking in place of your present wisdom. The fifth step is to stay with yourself afterward. Do not become ashamed because you were triggered. Do not call yourself too sensitive, difficult, or damaged. Ask what helped you return. Notice what remained unclear. Decide how you would like to respond if something similar occurs again. Every trigger can offer information about your history, your needs, and your growing capacity. Every trigger is an invitation to understand myself, not an order to abandon myself. Now go to a mirror if you can. Look directly into your eyes, not at your appearance. Look at the person who has survived every ending, every uncertainty, and every lonely night. Say slowly, "I see the pain you have been carrying." Pause and allow yourself to receive the words. Then say, "You did what you knew how to do in order to survive. I do not blame you for the love you wanted. I will no longer silence your feelings to protect someone else's comfort." Continue. "I trust myself to recognize what is healthy. I am allowed to leave what repeatedly harms me. You are not broken. You are healing, learning, and becoming free. If I love you feels impossible. Do not turn mirror work into another performance. Begin with a statement your body can receive. I am willing to stay with you today. Say it each morning for a week. Let staying become an action. Eat when you need nourishment. Rest when you are depleted. Tell the truth when something matters. Keep one small promise to yourself. Love becomes believable when it is demonstrated. Peace does not arrive only when the world becomes predictable. The world may never offer complete certainty. Peace also grows when you trust that you will respond to what reality reveals. You do not need to analyze every possible future when you know that you will not ignore consistent behavior. You do not need to rehearse every form of betrayal when you trust yourself to act if trust is violated. You do not need to remain hypervigilant when the adult within you has become willing to protect the vulnerable part within you. I become calmer when I know that I will not abandon myself. Let anger guide you toward the wound. Let the wound reveal the need. Let the need guide you toward a self-respecting choice. This is how emotional pain becomes wisdom without becoming hardness. This is how you remain kind without remaining available for harm. This is how you love again without disappearing inside love. If anxiety or overthinking continues for a long time, seriously disturbs sleep, limits daily life, or makes you feel unable to cope, seeking help from a qualified mental health professional is an act of self-love. You do not have to untangle every wound alone. Support does not take your power away. Wise support helps you use your power with greater clarity. Take one slow breath and affirm, I am not broken. I am releasing the fear, grief, anger, and self-abandonment I have carried for too long. I honor my feelings without allowing every fear to become a prophecy. I listen to words, trust consistent behavior, and choose relationships that respect my whole being. I remain compassionate without excusing repeated harm. I forgive when I am ready, and I do not volunteer to repeat the past. I no longer leave myself to keep another person. I am becoming wiser without becoming harder. I stay beside myself in pain, uncertainty, loneliness, and change. I am safe with myself, and peace is returning to me now.